Namaste, Namo Buddhaya. So 1 year since I first began, well, I suppose you could say making these videos in Tum Kur during the last Vasa 3 months retreat that monks take in the rainy season here in Asia and Southeast Asia, where predominantly the weather conditions are such that rain is continuous for 3 months, and wandering as a samana, as a renunciant, a monk of any denomination, is not so practical, living outside, and the other problem being the traipsing over growing crops and the soft soil beneath the feet. So the Buddha put this in place, which is also something that's it's part of the Vinaya, so it's upheld throughout the world. In other parts of the world, of course, this is perhaps the best time of year weather-wise. So they often take a retreat during the winter months, 3 months in January, February, March. And when I was a lay person, but living as a monk on 8 precepts at least anyway, I would often, you also take this time, 3 months, this is very cold in England, to stay in one place. 1 year I spent in what we call a porter cabin, a metal box really, but it did have a window and a door in the middle of a field, and there was a lot of snow. I spent 3 months there. Another year in my van on the beach in England, where I spent 3 winters there, although I think one of them I was in Thailand. And I experienced extreme temperatures down to -5 at night in the van on one occasion, and it was at least -3 when I was in the metal box, the porter cabin. I couldn't get anywhere to get water and had to melt snow. That's not as easy as you might think. I did have gas for a little gas stove, and I was allowed to cook, not being a monk. So anyway, I survived. It was okay. I managed to get water. This is the main thing that we need, all of us, human beings, all beings. Water is the most important thing, then food. Well, air first, then water, and then food. So air, think about this. You know, we watch the breath in our meditation, āNΑPΑNASATI. And this is such a good meditation object for that reason, because it is our life force. So not only are we able to use a meditation object that is always with us, it is a meditation object that one can quite easily draw one's attention to if you don't try too hard. One can take the āNΑPΑNASATI sutta, one can take all of the commentaries, and you can take all of the stages, 16 stages of āNAPANASATI meditation practice in detail and get a little bit confused. But it really isn't that confusing. The Buddha said, and I've repeated in the chanting just recently in the English version too of the āNAPANASATI sutta in chanting form, how simple it is. Simply put mindfulness in front of you. Not literally in front of you, but make it your primary intention to be mindful, aware, continuously of the breath. The whole body, that is all of the air you breathe in, and that whole body of air as you breathe out. As simple as that. That's how simple meditation can be. Now this also applies to all of the Buddha's teachings. He didn't make his teachings complicated. If he did, I would be having a very difficult time indeed. I'm a simple person. I like a simple life. The intellectual side of Buddhism is very interesting, and if that is what you like, this is fine and good. It's a way of developing wholesome mind states through directing your intellectual power of inquiry in a good way. So rather than working out how to fathom out the for instance, origins of the universe, which, let's face it, is not going to be fathomed out by one of us human individuals without driving ourselves mad first, as the Buddha taught in the Achintaya Sutta. Don't try and fathom out the origins of the universe, the end of the universe, the depths of the jhanas, or the effects or the results of karma, or these are the four things. I think I missed, no, that's the four things he said not to try and get your mind around, because it will just send you crazy. These are things that you cannot find the answers to unequivocally within this lifetime. But what you can find the answers to unequivocally within this lifetime are the simple characteristics of this life. And they are anicca, that of anicca, impermanence or uncertainty, dukkha, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, and anatta, which is often translated as not self, but can be also looked at as things, all conditioned things, including our own bodies, are out of our control. That's all quite simple, put that way, isn't it? Quite easy to understand. And really, that is all the Buddha taught. So when we sit to practice āNāPāNASATI meditation, we are aiming to develop what we call samadhi. Now, samadhi is often translated as concentration, but really it is meditation. Samadhi is when we practice meditation of focusing our attention on one meditation object, such as the breath, in order to bring our awareness to that one point and be less and eventually not distracted by all of the other aspects that are there to distract us in everyday life and also during our sitting time in meditation. And this developing of samadhi can be most easily done through this practice of āNāPāNASATI meditation, which is why it was the Buddha's, he taught 40 different other, or 39 if you include that one, other meditation objects. But in his enlightenment, when he sat, it was he wouldn't have called it the āNāPāNASATI method, but it was the observation of the breath that brought him to his enlightenment. It in fact was actually the recall, the memory of his childhood experience of āNāPāNASATI that actually brought him to enlightenment. So in effect it was double sati, because sati means recall, it means remembering, as in we are remembering to be aware, be mindful, as it often gets translated into mindfulness. Now, back to this being a year since I started making these videos, and historically my years of winter retreat spent in snow and cold and ice, very, very cold at night, in a metal box, as you can imagine, or in a van. You cannot have the gas fire alight. So you stay awake all night and meditate. And then when it's warmer during the day, you can rest, you can sleep. But as a solitary practitioner, this doesn't matter. You don't have any other duties or anything you need to fulfill that would preclude you from doing that. Then, more lately, in this just last year, so much has happened, hasn't it? I've been first in Tumkur until when it ended, the Vasa, when I went to, I think I went to the west coast here in India and spent 3 months there, October, November, December, at least a couple of months anyway, until January, when in January, for visa reasons, I went to Thailand, and then I've been in Thailand for the last 7 months, and now I have returned here for the Vasa again in India. Now that seems like a lot of travelling, and it is, but within that also there's been a lot of change in Thailand itself. One minute I was in a particular part of the forest, then I moved to the smaller kuti. I had a slightly different routine towards the end than when it began, but the underlying and fundamental practice always remained the same. As in when I was in a metal box in the ice, as in when I was in a kuti in a forest in the jungle in Thailand, the same as when I was in my kuti in the coconut grove in Gokarna on the west coast of India, and now. I wake up at 3 in the morning, I meditate. At 6 in the morning I go on alms round, Pindapat, to collect some food if I'm fortunate. I come back to my kuti. I take care of duties such as any cleaning of robes, laundry, whatever like that. I then eat just one meal at around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock is normally my time. In Thailand it was considerably earlier, but here I usually eat at around 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then after my meal, I'm then free for the afternoon because we don't have to think about another meal in the day. This is primarily the purpose for only eating once a day for monks and anyone on the 8 precepts, to free up time for practice. And one very common question, especially of late I think, is, well, surely all this technology, this YouTube, this making of videos must be distracting from your practice. And actually, I can quite understand that from your perspective. But you see, from where I'm sitting here now, in front of, well, sitting under a tree, where I often sit to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, not necessarily to meditate, because although this might look like the ideal environment for meditation, people are going past. Workmen are working on the new kutis over there. Animals, cows, dogs, alas, poor old Tom Tom, are going to come and interrupt your samadhi. So I sit and I meditate in my kuti or in the temple, more often than not in my kuti. It doesn't matter where. You don't have to choose a picturesque, beautiful environment. You don't need to be going all over the world seeking sunsets, beautiful tropical beaches, gorgeous forests, groves, and mango trees, and this and that for your meditation. That has nothing to do with it. This is external aspects of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and all of the dreams and imagination we think about. This is what we're bringing our samadhi, our focus of pure one-pointedness, attention on one meditation object, into focus for, so as not to be distracted by all of those other things. So my meditation is usually back in the boring 4 walls of my, as you've seen on these videos, like a prison cell, because my eyes are generally closed and I'm just watching the breath, just that. So what's going on around me, it doesn't matter. I've said often, I think, my best I can say best or most memorable, put it that way, because of the nature of how dramatically different they were, meditation experiences have been in the most unlikely situations. But not because there's been external stimulation, it's because the external environment has been such that you really didn't want to be there, and you've been able to go deep inside more easily. It sounds like running away. In some respect, it's taking refuge in the meditation. I hope it's not getting too windy for this microphone. I'll try and shelter it a little. So, yes, I can see from the point of view of watching this, it looks maybe like a nice video, and maybe that it takes some time to think about and set up, but it actually really doesn't. I'm looking at the back of a phone that's not even mine. I borrow these phones. There's one wire connected to it, to this microphone, otherwise you wouldn't hear me clearly. I push start, record the video, and at the end I push stop the video. That's my involvement. As long as you are listening to me and I'm talking to you, is as far as it goes, as far as my relationship with YouTube and with the internet and with technology is concerned. I do have to afterwards press another couple of buttons to make it upload to YouTube and write a title, because I usually write that afterwards. It's whatever's, I don't know what I'm going to speak about. I haven't planned it, so I can't make a title first. At the end of this video, something will come into my head that will be the title of this video. I quickly type that in and push upload. that's the end of it for another day. And in the morning there will be some comments or some emails that within an hour's time, within an hour, without any problem, I can go through them, answer your questions, acknowledge your comments, which I'm always very grateful to receive, and reply to any emails I receive. So the length of this video, say 40 minutes, 50 minutes, plus an hour in the morning the next day, is my involvement with technology, my distraction, if you like, from my practice. But it is not distraction. It is part of my practice. What am I doing? Am I surfing the internet, looking at fast food advertisements, pictures of fast cars? Am I playing games? No. I'm talking to you about my experience of practicing the Dharma as a monk in different places as time goes along. Now, occasionally, yes, occasionally I might pick up the phone. It's in my hand or in my pocket. Well, I don't have a pocket, but little bag thing, and make a very short video of something that might be of interest. But often it's something I find is, well, as is everything, Dharma related. And again, push a button and it's there, it's on there. There is no laptop, no desktop PC, no office to go to, no chair to sit on, no editing suite. It's as simple as I've just described, just that. I think most of you spend probably more time in your day looking at social media, which I do not have any social media accounts. Try and find me, you will not. The only way you'll find me is English Monk, and then it'll come straight to YouTube, this channel. I don't exist in the world of social media. I don't exist in the world of the internet or Google. I don't actually exist in my own country, it seems, very much anymore, and I certainly don't exist here in India or in Thailand. I am in existence. I am a Phra Dan, and I am recognized there under the monks' regulations for their monks' visas purposes, because I had to go to various interviews. But that isn't who was born. That isn't the person that my mother gave birth to 56 years ago, whom was educated, became a businessman and led the life he did, had a family, had children, now has grandchildren. That isn't known to anyone in Thailand. It's not hidden either. It's openly discussed if it was appropriate, but it's not relevant, as it isn't here. Now, why is that? Well, that too is a whole explanation and example of anatta, not self. After all, what are we? We're what we perceive ourselves to be, or others perceive of us, or what we like to perceive ourselves to be, or what we'd like others to perceive of us. How true is that? Well, if you strip it all away, as you do in the life of a renunciant, a monk, when you go from the household life forth into homelessness, you give up your identity in terms of clothing, that kind of style. You get rid of your identity even in terms of hair and your name. You become, here I'm Bhante Dhammarakkhita, Bhikkhu. This is not on my passport. When I have to go to the immigration office, I am that person, and I have to explain to them a whole nother story, if you like. And it is a story. It's just the recollection of events so far that are now in the past and completely irrelevant. So I find it a little frustrating. I think, well, all you're really dealing with, Mr. Immigration Officer, is what you see in front of you here. What you see is what you get. I'm stripped bare, this monk who owns nothing in the world. And I'm here at under your grateful hospitality as a country to enjoy this beautiful country and its hospitality, but also make some contribution, if I can, to the development of Buddhism. Now, of course, I don't say all of this because it would just wind them up, frankly, but this is what goes through my mind, because I'm not what I used to be. Now, here, it's just as easy to be here as a tourist on a tourist visa, because that's the longest you'll ever stay nowadays. It's new rules. as a foreigner when you're here in India. But this is no problem. When that time is up, or before, I will go back to Thailand, or maybe I'll go to Sri Lanka, or maybe I'll visit England. Again, it doesn't matter. I don't plan ahead for this. What will happen at the time? I didn't know I was coming here to India less than a month ago. Less than 28 days ago, I was staying in Thailand for the Vasa. Then I don't know, something came up, I don't even recall now, and everything changed. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, or 2 days ago, 1 day ago, last night, there was my companion, little Tom Tom. He's now dead. This happens. We're all of the nature to die, get age. We're all of the nature to age, get sick and die. And this is what we have in common. We are born to die. Birth is, a condition of birth is death. No one is immortal. But that is this body. And it is this body that we attach so much to in terms of our circumstances and conditions that surround us, which make us what we think we are. When you strip it all away, we are just what? Well, I have not only stripped everything away, but certainly put myself in some very different situations just within the last year, let alone the last, nearly 10 years now, in different countries, different places, different kinds of accommodation, all of them to somewhat of an extreme nature, from living outside on beaches and on cliffs and in caves, in forests, in jungles, in cold places, in hot places. All of these different things you'd think would have an impression and create some kind of a person. No, if you attach to anything, then that will be the case. If you spend enough time sitting in an office with people wearing suits, doing business, you will eventually be wearing if you were allowed to do that, looking like this, you would eventually start to be wearing suits and doing business also. We kind of tend to naturally fit into our environment as we try and blend in and abide by local laws, bylaws, in order to not offend, in order to be grateful to your hosts. But one can also do this without attachment, as one can enjoy beauty, enjoy the beauty of nature, enjoy a lovely sunset, enjoy a beautiful beach, a mango grove, a lovely place to meditate. But enjoy it for that, in the moment, as it is. The minute you become attached to it and say, right, this is my kuti, this is who I am, I live in this forest, I'm a Thai Forest Monk, what happens? You're no longer that. You're then in a different environment, and you're this, and before you were that. That's anicca, that is impermanence, that is uncertainty. What is anatta? Well, it is the very fact that whatever you thought you were, whatever you thought you have, you are not, and it isn't. Because it can be taken away just like that. An acquaintance of mine back in Gokana, where I was just last December for a few months, he died, unexplained as yet, just like that, just recently. Quite young, late 30s, I don't know, 40s, something like that. I would have expected to see him as I've seen him for the last 3 or 4 years. Every time I go there, in the same places, doing the same things. Very nice man, a devout Shiva devotee in the Hindu faith, but a good practitioner of that, very pleasant person to be around, no longer. So where's all that, a beautiful personality he had, a beautiful man, where has all that gone? Well, it hasn't gone. He did good things in his life, and from what I knew, which would have far outweighed anything bad, because you can tell, you know a good person and you know a bad person, generally speaking. But nevertheless, we all have some good in us, but he did good, and hopefully he's gone on to a rebirth in a very happy place and a comfortable place. maybe before we think his time was due. And I'm sure his dear family would think so. As, you know, poor little puppy Tom Tom, I hope he's having a rebirth in a very happy place and comfortable place too, long before his time was due. I don't know how old he was, but he wasn't 1 year old yet. He was ill from the start. I think he was born with a lot of problems. He did have some rather strange mannerisms, not normal for a puppy. So although it wasn't expected, he seemed to be growing up quite well. It does happen. We remember those personalities, but what we should remember is the good those people did, because that is the karma. That is their actions, the result of their good actions of body, speech and mind. And that is what is not only truly left behind for us to remember, embodied in the personalities we use to recall those good aspects of their lives. It is that is what goes forward. Without stopping and starting, it's a flowing process, rebirth, moment to moment. So it isn't our self, that nata, because anatta means not self. It isn't our self, that personality, the result of our conditions and circumstances and our good karma, it could be said, that gets reborn or is propelled into rebirth. It is vipaka, the results of our karma, our actions of body, speech and mind, that will direct in which direction we will go into rebirth. Now, I said along the lines when Tom Tom was here that I believed he must be a monk in previous lives to have had the opportunity to live in a monastery. And I usually say that of temple pets, monastery dogs, monastery cats, that maybe they were naughty monks. They had to take a rebirth in the animal realm, but they weren't so naughty that they haven't at least got the chance to be around the Dharma, even if they don't really fully understand it and appreciate it. But I think little Tom Tom had some good things to offer. He was a good companion. He certainly helped show us all metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, joy for others when he was starting to feel better. And we must always remember of these 4 Brahma Viharas. Again, something that I chanted from the simple chanting book in the evening puja just recently. And if you want to really get to know those 4 Brahma Viharas, listen to that chant again. It just explains it so succinctly and so simply that the 4th of those, equanimity, is what we are trying to develop. It's one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And when we can develop upekkha, equanimity, then when these vicissitudes of life, when these changes come about, different countries, different places, friends living, friends dying, friends being ill, maybe you are in a place where you don't want to be, or maybe you can't be in a place where you want to be, or you're in a place where you really love it and you want to be, but you're no longer able to be there. All of these things, it doesn't matter. We become equanimous to those aspects. They're external conditions. Just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. The good things, yes, enjoy them as they come along. The bad things, know them for what they are, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and out of our control. So I don't think that's I think that's enough to say for today. I haven't got any way of knowing the time, so I don't know whether I've spoken for about 40 minutes or not. Oh, just back to this distraction thing. So yes, it isn't a distraction from my practice. It is part of my practice because I am sharing the Dharma, and that is all I'm doing. And that, in turn, helps reinforce what I am learning through my own practice by repeating it out loud to another, or many others, hopefully. by that very action, I'm reinforcing what I've learned. It's like revision for me. So it's an hour's study each and every day. And then another hour's study when I'm looking at questions which require me to dig inside deep into what I've experienced and what I know of the Dharma, which is limited. Remember, I'm not always been a Buddhist. I come from a non-Buddhist country, and I came to Buddhism about, 10, 12, 15 years ago, I'm not sure. But in that time, I've learnt enough to try and find answers, or at least help with my opinion. And that delving in to try and answer some questions is also a way of researching, a way of revising, a way of learning more to add to. Excuse me 1 minute. Can you wait, please? Wait, Padme, wait. Sorry, I had to just ask a rather enthusiastic someone trying to do something without where I really need to be there for that. So that's a good point to end on, and I hope if there's anything there that's useful, you can use it. If not, just let it go. Yes, that's what I was going to say on the technology. Yes, sometimes with the which could have become a distraction if I'd allowed it to be, was when it was a struggle with the internet, but it didn't ever really get in the way. I have many hours of the day, as I've just explained from my routine, to practice meditation away from this. Now we have internet, but occasionally, well, most often in every day, we don't have electricity. But again, one gets around that somehow and makes sure things are charged up when you do have electricity. So it doesn't distract me, it does help me. And thank you for giving me that opportunity. 1 year later, we're still doing it, so it must be worthwhile. And I'll continue to do it, continue to contribute to this channel as long as you find it so. Thank you for watching. Namo Buddhaya.